Get out of my way, motherfucker! I gotta get a present.
Yep. People get nuts during Christmas shopping season. Or Black Friday.
Yeah.
I take. Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry about what?
Oh no! Someone mentioned Black Friday. I wasn't too sure if you guys were talking about. Are you guys talking about like the various Christian myths regarding Christmas, or?
No, just how insane people are shopping on Black Friday.
Which is a great song by Steely Dan, by the way.
Yeah, that is a good song, isn't it?
I never, my dad listens to Steely Dan. I never did actually listen to him. I'll probably download the discography and check him out though.
Yeah, it's a band. It's not a guy.
Yeah, Donald Fagen and what's the other guy's name? Walter Becker.
Walter Becker.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I saw them live recently. I brought my dad, who loves jazz, and he was just blown away of how sophisticated the music was, and he was really surprised how much he just loved the whole show.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're musicians. They're a band for musicians or people that appreciate, that kind of music that they use a lot of skill in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've even read some musical analysis of their stuff where because they add so many color notes to a lot of chords, they actually are being analyzed as having created new chords. One was called a mu chord, M-U, and I think it had sort of like a parallel fourths in a chord that usually is just thirds, but they'll insert a fourth in the chord, or they'll put a fourth of the chord in the root instead of a fifth, third, or the usual root note in the root. So they're kind of responsible for a whole new way of imagining
Constructing chords, yeah.
Much in the way Claude Debussy did in the late 19th century.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, when he did his impressionistic music, and people like Wagner were like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
I think Debussy is one of the greatest melodists ever. Constructing melodies, I think he was just amazing at that.
Yeah, he was my first draw into classical music, and ever since then, I haven't been able to stop.
Yeah,
I love Reuven as well.
Oh yeah, he's great too. Some of his stuff's gets pretty weird, but yeah, he's good.
Debussy can be pretty weird too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What is that Panorama, the Reuven one?
I'm not sure what that is.
I think it. Oh, I think that's actually just the name of like the collection I got. But it's a bunch of. Actually, let me look it up. Hold on.
Yeah, because I don't recognize that as a title of any of his pieces.
Martha Argerich, or however you say it, Argerich, the famous pianist.
Yeah.
She played a piece on this recording. It's just beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So sorry about that. That was my dad commenting. He was saying that the Steely Dan was pretty good music.
Is what?
He says Steely Dan's pretty good music.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. It's better than pretty good.
They're like they've
my favorite.
Yeah, they reinvented jazz, pop, rock in the mid to late '70s like nobody else. They're definitely musical legends.
Yeah, they kind of created their own genre in a way by mixing together so much stuff.
Oh, exactly.
But it doesn't sound.
Can I ask a real quick question about those guys, if you don't mind? I tend to gravitate towards rock and heavy metal. So like, what genre is Steely Dan? Just for a record here, because I tried listening to damn, I forget his name though. But he seemed to be like more like pop rock or like early pop rock. And I couldn't seem to actually like his music for some reason. I mean, it was just too weird for me.
Well, who was it you're talking about?
Steely Dan, the group's. Oh, you mean? Sorry, the past tense. Sorry about that.
Well, they're typical of a band that is, multi-hyphenated. So it's jazz, rock, pop, blues mix. I mean, it's sort of like
too a little bit.
Yeah, it's sort of like the early Chicago music. I mean, they're doing blues, rock, jazz, funk. It's all in there.
Oh, okay. So it's not one particular genre that they're dominated by then.
No, definitely not.
Okay. Well, I actually like that. That's I like bands multifaceted within that framework. Like, for example, like Black Sabbath. In many ways, while they mainly stuck to metal or to early metal at the time, they tended to gravitate towards other genres of rock and and especially the way in which Ozzy Osbourne started going his own way from Black Sabbath eventually, and started making these various emotionally driven musical lyrics, for which I just have to say, he's kind of like my god almost in a way.
I love that first Black Sabbath album. So good.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through my music. I haven't listened to Black Sabbath in such a long time. Oh wow, I don't even have it on my hard drive. Crap, I gotta re-download it now. Yeah.
So how has everybody else been? Kevin, Shauna?
Oh, here we go.
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Cool.
I was just kind of mentioning to Frank the kind of change of my own creative stuff. I mean, I listen to a variety of different kinds of music and many different genres, but artistically, I mean, my temperament has always been towards acoustic because I was raised in a family where, we were encouraged to learn musical instruments. So no matter what the case was, I mean, we learned something. My mother did piano. I also did piano for a while. My brother got into guitar. Then I got into brass when I was in school. I did trumpet and tuba and all that. I noticed my temperament as I enjoy keys. It's probably part of the reason why I did okay with my electronic experiments. But it's difficult to have a transportable, inexpensive key instrument, because a lot of pianos they either use stereo samples and they're big, or they're these huge accordions, and to have any breadth of different chord progressions, you would need to have a much larger Stradella bass system. You'd have to have over 80 or 128 buttons to get a decent amount of chords. That, and it's incredibly complicated. I had a friend of mine in school, her name is Arandi, and she's an accordionist and a piano player, and she was telling me that accordion can be a lot more difficult than piano even. But there is an instrument I found out about a few years ago, and I have a couple of them lying around. It's called a melodica. They used to call it the hooter in some like jazz circles back in the day. They used to be made out of metal. Now they're more made out of plastic. The reed is still solid metal, but the casing is usually plastic to cut down on cost and weight. But what it is, it's a keyboard with free reeds, like a reed plate like you would have in a harmonica, and you just blow directly into it, and you're able to manipulate the sound pretty well. And there's different types.
In fact, speaking of Steely Dan, I think that they've used melodica from time to time.
A lot of rock bands have used melodica. I think the Beatles used it in one of their songs.
Yeah. Uh-oh, he's going to get one.
I have some issues with it, just the playability and everything. It's not super expensive.
Can you do some Black Sabbath on it?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't really...
You can do that.
It wouldn't sound that good. I actually saw a guy do Black Sabbath on the harmonica, he used some pedals and changed it. He added some distortion. It sounded pretty cool.
Oh, awesome.
Here's the. This is a unique one. It's the Hohner Ocean. It's got blue for the black keys and black for the white keys.
Oh.
And the casing is solid blue. The strap broke, which is fine. It normally comes with this kind of corrugated tubing. So if you want to play it in your lap, you can kind of blow into a tube. I didn't like the way it looked, so I went and got some black vinyl tubing, bent it out, so it looks a little cleaner. It's the same color. So with that, with the ends that are provided in the tube, I was able to mod it, and I could use this with pretty much any melodic I got, so I can play it from here. Okay, it's got like a very kind of bright sound. It's a little less warm than a harmonica, depending on them. But there's one I want to get. I found a really good deal on Amazon. Suzuki makes really high-end melodicas. They call theirs melodians, and they have this bass melodian. It's only 24 keys instead of 32 or 37, but I've heard some samples of it. The sounds almost like a bari sax. It's very, very low end.
Oh, interesting.
Beautiful sound. So it's over half off on Amazon right now. So I'm hoping if I get my gift card and I save up a little bit of money, I'll be able to pick it up this week.
What do they run?
They normally run $179.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It's down to $79 right now.
Oh, wow, yeah, you can't pass that up.
Well, that's the thing with these. You want to get higher quality. The typical melodica is like $40-$50. They have ones as high as $300. Hammond used to make ones that had a built-in amp, but and if you wanted to do live recording, the best thing to do is just buy a pickup mic, like if you would do with a ukulele or like a folk instrument, and you just clip it to the side of it. But my mic is pretty good if I ever wanted to record myself. So
yeah,
but I really like it. And a friend of mine, Tim, he's going to be getting into dulcimers. You know the mountain-style dulcimers with the 4 strings? Well, there's this one he likes that's kind of got the body of a violin. It's called a Merlin. It came out very recently. It doesn't have a very big range, but it's lightweight, and it's a really good portable instrument. So he's thinking of getting that. And
I like the sound of those.
If I was the melodica player, we'd have a free reed sound, and a couple of my friends are big into woodwinds, so we could get maybe ocarina or a recorder, and we could jam out and maybe record ourselves.
I love dulcimer, the sound.
It's beautiful sound.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Beautiful sound. I was talking about melodicas, the blow organ, as it's called, the hooter. They have a bass melodian by Suzuki that's down to 79 from 179, and it's much nicer build, much better build quality. I really like the sound. It's unique. You don't see a lot of melodica players that use the bass.
Okay.
And what's up?
I've never even heard of a melodica, so.
Really?
Oh, no.
It's
Really?
a favorite instrument like a harmonica, except you just blow into it and press the keys.
Well,
I remember seeing it in elementary school. They used to break it out and try to inspire us with blowing into a keyboard.
The melodica, the melodian, the pianica, they're all basically the same thing. The blow organ has been used in education for over 60 years. It's very big in Asia. That's why a lot of Asian companies still make high-end melodicas, melodians, and pianicas. Yamaha, it's pianica. Suzuki, it's melodian. In most places, it's melodica. Now, if I had a lot of money, I could get something called an accordina, which is made in France, and it has like a Bayan accordion style button, like the round buttons that are black and white in a weird isometric pattern. It's made of solid metal.
Oh wow!
But they're like $1,500, $2,000, $3,000.
Wow, that's a lot.
There's also a really cool instrument they make in Italy that they like to get one. You just have to find somebody who makes one. It's called a vibrandonian, and it's solid wood walnut casing with ivory keys, not actual ivory, more like mother of pearl, but it's built by an accordion maker, and the mouthpiece is actually an S-shaped brass like mouthpiece that pivots. They're really, really pretty, and it actually has 3 different octaves adjustable that you blow into it. So it's like a really, really nice instrument, but there's just not a lot of interest in it.
There's tons of those weird instruments out there that really no one plays hardly.
Have you ever heard of the chromatic kalimba?
No.
Made by Hugh Tracy?
Mm-mm.
That's a thing.
Oh yeah, then there's custom instruments, yeah.
Well, the way it works is it's still a diatonic like a lot of flutes, dulcimers and things like that. And one side's diatonic and all the accidentals are on the other side, and it has a hole in it like the chamber of a guitar, and a lot of them actually have a built-in pickup. Kalimba is a thumb piano for those playing the home game. It has metal tines that are tunable on a kind of like a fretboard almost, and you pluck it with your thumbs. They actually have these little things you can get like a banjo player. You put on the ends of your thumbs so that you can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, real quick, since Hermione wanted to say something there, what instruments do you play, Hermione?
You talking to me?
Yeah, you, because you seem to want to have chimed in there and you didn't get the chance to. What instruments do you play?
You're mean, and I don't play any instruments. Like when I was in elementary or something, I think I was percussion. I don't think I was, but that's the last time I played an instrument.
I bet you can play the radio.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Hey, Kevin, have you? I was wondering if they might have some kind of a attachment you could put, seeing as that instrument is based on flow of air, similar to what Peter Frampton did with his guitar.
There's an attachment that I could put onto it. I have seen people do all kinds of crazy things with pedals and microphones. You can modify the ever-loving fuck out of a melodica. I've seen it. I've seen somebody tie in a Korg oscillator into a fucking melodica and modify the sound live.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, so you can do that stuff. But for me, like, I just like the idea of being able to pick up an instrument and play it and build a skill. I took 3 years of piano and 6 years of brass, so I'm very good with buttons and keys. With even just a few months of practice, it's like it's on. So I can play those kinds of things, and this instrument is very unique. It has more expression than a piano does, almost in the same way that a clavichord or a harpsichord has a level of expression that a piano doesn't, because it uses strings in a different manner. It's more of a pluck or a hammer instead of the kind of dampening that you get with pianos. Mm-hmm. And I like it. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very portable. And I could get a cheap one for the beach, and I could get a nice one if I really actually want to play with somebody.
Yeah, probably a good way to meet people. Just break it out and start wailing.
No, I've done it a few times. I brought it to like kickbacks and like events and stuff, and people have been interested in it. It's a fixture of a lot of independent music right now. I've actually seen bands that feature it.
What's it called again?
The standard name is the melodica. Melodica.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about a different instrument you just mentioned.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I spaced out. Sorry about that.
It's cool. Don't worry about it.
Pay attention, Frank.
I'm sorry. I'm standing by the window with a cigarette.
Oh.
Can't do two things at once.
I love that Chinese string instrument too, where you're saying that some of the guys that play, what was it, dulcimer, one of the other instruments you mentioned? That
Dulcimers and zithers. Zithers are particularly common in Asia. They're interrelated. Effectively, a piano is technically a dulcimer. The very earliest instruments that formed the basis of the piano was the monochord.
Yeah.
And it was done in a fashion that's approximate. It's approximate tuning as opposed to regular kinds of tunings with like harps, where each string has a particular kind of configuration. But there are some pretty cool instruments that are no longer made. Like one that I actually.
I was just gonna say it's cool to. I went on YouTube once to see if they had any ancient renderings of the use of the lyre, and it's really interesting if you start.
Check out that Babylonian song.
Yeah, investigating these ancient instruments is really fascinating.
The lyre and harp type instruments are some of the oldest ones in existence.
Yeah.
They predate fretted instruments by quite a while. The thing that's interesting about it when you study the lyre, especially its fixture in ancient Greece, which we know quite a bit about, it helped to shape music theory. The concept of a mode, like this, the Greek modes, Aeolian, Dorian, Mixolydian, all those sorts of things, and Mixolydian actually forms the basis for blues, the blues scale. Those were done as tunings. So you would have a standard lyre, 10 strings, 12, 16, whatever the case may be, and you would custom tune each one of those strings to fit a particular mode for the song you were playing. So the whole song would be in that particular mode. And each time you switch songs, or switch lyres even, if you had the money, they would be tuned to different modes. And it's interesting too, like we have this like image of musicians just having one instrument. That would not have been the case, for a group of minstrels. If you were a woodwind player, and most woodwinds are diatonic, you would have had to have had all of the keys, or at least a lot of them, 5 or 6 or 7 different keys, like the Irish flutes, the French one, the flageolet, the tin whistle, the penny whistle. They're diatonic instruments. They can play multiple keys. I think they can play 2 majors and 2 minors, if I remember right. But you would still have to have all the keys to be able to get all the alternate fingerings for different songs. So it's a lot of work and a lot of money. We're spending hundreds of dollars on instruments.
Yeah, just to get all the keys covered.
Yeah, basically.
They make like chromatic harmonicas too.
Well, see, the thing is with that, chromatics are good, but they're particularly better for classical and jazz music. I researched harmonicas because it's a free reed instrument and it's really cool. I'm not very good at it.
Stevie Wonder plays it, right?
Yeah, he plays a chromatic. Yeah. But a lot of harmonica players are blues. They're purist about it. They think that the purpose of it, what makes the harmonica unique, is that by playing in second position, you can do blues. You can basically you're breaking the purpose of the harmonica. It is tuned diatonically to a key. So on the 4th hole, you have the C scale, which is very, very regular. So you can play folk music, and you're always in the same key. If you
Bob Dylan style.
Yeah, pretty much. That is the easiest way. But to play blues, you have to play from like the 2nd and 3rd hole, and you're basically playing in G. You're playing a G Mixolydian blues scale. It's
all right. Let's. I'm just thinking you're losing people with the Mixolydian scale. I know what it is, but probably most people here don't understand.
Hold on. I'll demonstrate.
Yeah, that would be a lot better, especially considering we're live at the moment, because a lot of people might have tuned it off at this point.
Okay.
Actually, play a Locrian scale. Start on B and go straight up to B to B in the key of C.
Let him do what he's going to do. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anybody who wants to learn about music is, to me, it's sacred. There's so much symmetry and mathematics involved in it. It's just intense. There are versions of the circle of fifths that are 10 layers long. This traditional circle of fifths, it basically is like C has no sharps and flats, and then you go up 1 sharp, 2 sharps, 3 sharps, and they kind of are inharmonic and they blend together. So there's relative keys. In C, that's C major. The relative minor is A minor. Also, it's all white keys. The blues scale would be like this. It's built off of the pentatonic through a diatonic instrument. It's very easy to do that on a harmonica. Jazz scales, don't even get me started. That's freaking complicated. Jazz is like its own form of music. It completely breaks all the rules of music.
And that's why we love it.
Yeah, and it's formed the basis of so much music past that. I would argue that blues and jazz pretty much have shaped all music.
Well, blues started in the black gospel, right?
Slave songs.
Let me an addendum to this. There are three basically currents of music that have shaped all music: the blues current, the jazz current, which belays the sort of classical current, and then the folk and country. Those have shaped. I mean, modern rock and roll is a mixed breed. It's a mixture of all of that, and it's constantly reinventing itself. You have funk, which is constantly is basically a remix of all the other sorts of genres that were present at the time.
Yeah, when James Brown started doing his soul funk, nothing sounded like that before he started doing it.
Well, that's the thing, Rodney. Dubstep has an even more mixed kind of history. It all extends back to two-step, garage, and all that sort of music, which extends even further back to a lot of the music made in Detroit and Chicago, like early house and techno, and even trance to a certain extent. I mean, there's so much going on with that. Then you're mixing in experimental forms of music and drum and bass and IDM, which is really weird, pretentious music that's actually kind of cool. If you take the IDM thing, intelligent dance music. I like electronic. It's definitely interesting. But I find the best electronic is made by people who know music theory. And you can really see people who actually treat it as composition and really explore what you can do with it.
The best music, period, is made by people who understand music theory.
The thing is, if you can get yourself outside of the notion of it's sort of being an academic thing, that to know music theory you have to be super well educated. All of the resources on musical theory is available to you. By understanding how keys work, just how keys work, you vastly improve your understanding of music. Be able to read music, be able to understand relative majors and minors, chord progressions, the modes, just that. 15 minutes of that, your music is 1,000 times better.
Yep.
Yeah, I just ran into this guy who he plays some of the best blues guitar I've ever heard in my life, and he just took himself out of Berklee College of Music because he couldn't handle the theory. He just could not. He just couldn't get what they were trying to teach him. But if you listen to him, you just think this guy's better than Hendrix, better than Eric Clapton. I mean, just absolutely a freaking maniac. But he had
there's a thing with playing music. There's a thing with playing music. It's like math. You know, you have algebra people and geometry people. There seems to be that split. I'm more geometry, so I couldn't get through algebra. I like spatial understandings. I like things that are set up and I can understand. I don't like the abstract. I think algebra people in music are those who can play by ear. My brother is an algebra person when it comes to that. He can play anything by ear. He's a guitarist. He plays classical, jazz, blues, rock, all of that. He cannot read sheet music to save his life.
Right. I mean,
I'm the exact opposite. I'm the exact. Now, you have people who could do both, and those are Renaissance men and women. You know, people who can do all of it.
Yeah.
But they're rare. Most people default a little more to one or the other. That's why tablature was created. Tablature is a sort of shortcut around that.
Yeah.
And there are tabs for everything, by the way. There's not just tabs for guitar. There are tabs for drums. There are tabs for harmonica. There are tabs for freaking dulcimer and violin.
Some tabs are funny because the drum sheet music is almost exactly like drum tabs. Because drum notation already, you're not dealing with notes. I mean, you use the staff, but each line represents a different drum, so it's pretty much exactly the same as the tab.
Yeah, well, the thing is with drums, particularly the drum set, which is really the sort of iconic contemporary kind of aspect of percussion. It's all of your things in one. It's a spatial understanding, and some people need a little bit of that. I mean, listen to a typical song. Try to pick out the drum track. Really try to pick out everything. The hi-hats, the snare, the bass, all of that, by ear. Good fucking luck. It's pretty hard.
Don't they have software that can cancel out other stuff so you can just hear the one?
Yes, and actually there is some free stuff that you can use that has that. If you download Audacity, it's a free program, and you download all of the plugins, which takes a while, you download those separately. There are some plugins that allow you to break apart a wave file and actually pick out all the individual waves in a pre-mastered track. Like if you took a song you're already familiar with or one you've already created, and it'll allow you to break it out. And you can do modifications. You can do a lot. It's crazy.
Yeah, because I'm thinking with that, once you really become familiar with, say, the drum part, then you try to keep your ear attuned to it once all the other instruments are added, and that would be a good way of training your ear.
Now, taking that outside of the sort of technical aspect and bringing it to the more anthropological, historical, sociological aspect, music, it's very psychological. The Greeks understood this from a very early period. To them, each mode not only had its own mood associated with it, there were particular keys that were best for that mode, that they believed were endemic to that particular mode. Look it up. Look up the seven Greek modes and the classical versions of them. They've modified over the years. They were much more basic in ancient Greece, but it's really, really interesting how you got to get into it. But if you've ever been in a music class when you were a kid, they always kind of had that. I remember getting excited about music because they would do drawings and stuff. This is what minor feels like. This is what blues feels like. I had a teacher who she truly believed, my piano teacher, that each key had its own persona associated with it. Each key had its own vibe, which I thought was really cool, and it stuck with me for a long time.
She probably has perfect pitch. For someone to say something like that, I would think they have to have perfect pitch.
She had an excellent singing voice. She was incredibly creative, but she was hard on us. She wanted to make sure we did everything. The thing was funny though, is folk and blues and jazz. She kind of was didn't want us to do that. She wanted us to stick to our Hanon scales and our classical stuff, 19th century stuff. Usually that was her big deal. And I remember I would play a blues scale on the piano and be screwing around with the kids. We'd all be laughing. We're all 10 or 11 years old. And she'd come in. She'd be like, "Don't do that. You have to play your lessons. Play your lessons."
I can't tell you how much I hate Hanon scales, but how infinitely beneficial they are.
Oh, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, I remember those very well.
Oh yeah, I play them a zillion times every day.
Yeah, so that's what I'm taking to it is the melodica is a keyboard instrument. So all the stuff all my materials I have on playing piano transfer over. Cool thing is, what I like about it, my preferences, my left hand is stupid. It's not very good. So it's more of a one-handed.
I have the same problem. When I play piano, I'm for the most part just playing octaves and maybe fifths in the bass. Once in a while, if I play an independent line, I have to kind of rest my right hand while my left hand does its thing. So when I see people just do it like classical pianists, just playing multiple different, counter rhythmic things, oh my God, I just think that they're amazing.
You want an example of how crazy that is? Bourrée.
Mm-hmm.
Bourrée by Bach is probably one of the most excellent pieces as an example of classical. The left hand is
sorry.
The left hand is the bass, absolutely, but it is a melody. It is a full-on freaking counter melody. The left and the right hand are independent melodies. They correlate with one another. The understanding of music you would have to have with the chords in mind, it's intense. Bach was he was a rock star as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, in fact, one of the fascinating things I found out when looking into Bach was a lot of his things were started out as improvisations.
That is actually something that's starting to come back into classical. Improvisational classical. From the earliest periods in which we consider classical, the late medieval period, improvisational classical was a thing. It's kind of fell to the wayside and we forgot that all music can be improved. All music can be improvisational if you understand it enough.
Yeah. But I just thought that was interesting because, you know, like you're saying, usually we associate classical with, you know, this is the score and that's it. This is the score. But to think of something that, you know, we've come to be, you know by heart, to think that it would start it out as an improvisation, I think is just so cool.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you really see in music, particularly in the Renaissance and the Enlightenment period, is correlating sacred geometry into music.
Sacred geometry?
Yeah, he was talking in the background and I couldn't.
Is that does Pythagoras have anything to do with that?
Pythagoras was one of the earliest Greek philosophers who incorporated sacred geometry into his philosophy. He was obsessed with numbers. So a lot of the Renaissance thinkers incorporated a lot of Pythagorean concepts. Obviously, we have mathematics that incorporates it with a Pythagorean theorem. But like the golden mean, you know, you ever seen the shape of a nautilus? What is correlated to the shape of the nautilus? There's a mathematical formula.
The golden ratio?
Thank you. Yes. The golden ratio is incorporated in even early Baroque music. It's disgusting how much math is actually involved in early musics. And you still see it to this day.
Yeah. It was also mathematics was also a big part of early 20th century serialism.
Yes.
Where the music was so informed by the mathematical structures that really the notes were like secondary, and I think that's why a lot of time people don't really, including myself, I don't really like serialism because it was so much based on mathematical formula that it ends up really just sounding like something you don't want to ever hear again.
It's really super fascinating when you get into the actual structure. I've mentioned this to a few people. Look up isometric note layouts. It's something that people have been working through with electronics. There's actually apps on tablets and phones. It's particularly good on tablets. And there are these hex pattern tunings. There's actually instruments that incorporate it. And it's totally regular. So if it follows this, every fourth step here and every third step up here, every chord that you make in every single key is the same shape. So a major chord might be this tight cluster, a minor chord might be down here, but every minor chord looks the same. Every major chord looks the same. And yeah, they were doing that as early as the 19th century with the concertina, or the left-hand part of an accordion, uses an isometric note layout. It's not arbitrary or linear like a piano is. A piano is built for C. It is built for C, because all of C is the white keys, and the sharps are accidentals. So if you have a music system that isn't built to any particular key, but is built to the entire mathematics, the entire structure of all 12 notes, you have something completely revolutionary. And there have been studies to suggest that children who are taught this will have a better comprehension of music. I would love to see people try to incorporate that using electronics, using technology to teach people music. I think a lot of people get stuck on using the piano or using the sheet music to understand how music works, so that they get discouraged and they don't explore music. But it's interesting when you look at more modern forms of music. They're a lot more expressionistic. They're a lot more about how you feel and a lot less about the structure itself. But the funny thing is about jazz, and why I mentioned it, is jazz is a fusion of both. You have to feel jazz, but you have to understand jazz. I mean, it's probably one of the best fusions of both, of an actual really sophisticated understanding of how music works, but also being able to improv, to be able to play music on the spot, to be able to include your own ideas about it. And like what you were saying before, Frank, about different chords, even just using basic music theory, a C major with the root C, E, G is different than if I used G, C, E. That chord, even though it's the same chord, sounds different.
Right.
And if I made it C, G, C, E, it's going to be different because the root is multiplied. So it's going to have a fuller sound than just a regular C chord.
Right. And the other thing about jazz that a lot of people don't realize if they don't study music is that when it's done well, like for instance the rhythm section, the piano player and the guitar player, if they're really good instrumentalists, they start playing chord substitutions in the song that you would never think are there, and to the point where they just change so much on the spot the harmonic structure of the song that often doesn't even sound like the original song anymore. But as long as the musicians are following the impromptu idea, then that's what makes it work. But to sit there, you know, you think it's G minor 7, C7, F major 7, but then they'll throw in all kinds of chord substitutions, and for these guys to do this like on the fly, it's amazing. Like I think of people like McCoy Tyner is a good example of that. It's almost yeah. I mean, that's like you said. It's definitely its own genre. There's really nothing. Really nothing like it. I mean, even in rock improv, they don't do chord substitutions in rock. You've got your basic harmonic structure, and you're going to play the hell out of it. And if you're a good soloist, you might incorporate some interesting substitutions in your soloing, but you're not changing the harmonic structure of the song in the middle of the song. But in jazz, it's actually required.
Rock takes mostly from blues. If you want a real understanding of the sort of root of it, it's the 12-bar blues. The chord structure can be a simplified version of that. It can be a modification of that. But it all comes back to the 12-bar blues.
Right, and I think because of that, I've always thought the Rolling Stones are much better classic rock band than the Beatles were. The Beatles were mostly a pop band. Not very many Beatles songs really incorporate blues very much. So they were the quintessential pop band, but the Stones were almost always based on blues.
The Stones, the Animals, the Doors, a lot of these core classic rock bands that are sort of the staple of a lot of your radio stations, they're the ones that were defining classic rock. It looks like we're not arguing. It's not interesting.
This last church I was in, this pastor, he liked some stupid Jewish song. I don't know, was it something about David dancing or something? And he had this idea. Huh?
Hava Nagila.
It's something like that. And you know, that style of music. And he made some, and I made a comment like, well, I said something, I'd like to know what the song really sounded like, you know, when David sang it. And he took exception to that because he was a literalist. And he goes to me, how do you know it wasn't just like this? I'm like, because those chord structures they weren't created until the 19th century or maybe the early 20th century. You stupid fuck.
So, a lot of Jewish music uses the Phrygian dominant. You familiar with what that sounds like, Frank?
The Phrygian?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like going from E to E in the key of C.
It's going over the camel's hump.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what my piano teacher always told me. Going over the camel's back or hump or whatever.
It's a Phrygian dominant in D.
Yeah.
It's a raised, it's a lowered second and a lowered seventh?
Hey, speaking
No,
of
sixth. Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, speaking of modes, do you know what mode Zeppelin uses in Kashmir?
I want to think. I'm thinking that it's Dorian, but
No,
I'm not sure.
no, it's not Dorian. It's probably I don't know. It sounds like it's borrowing from like a Mid-Eastern or Indian mode. It's not something that I think you could take out of our diatonic harmony.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Hungarian. Pretty sure it's typically the sort of Middle Eastern, like it's the stereotypical one you see in Middle Eastern music. It's not the only one, but
I think it's got a flatted second in it. That's why it sounds like that.
it's a flatted third and a raised fourth for using C as the bass.
Oh, okay.
So it would be like in C, it would be C, D, E flat, F sharp, G.
Yeah.
They're probably using a variation of that. There's a lot. There's different ones. You really want to just throw your head for a ringer. Look at Indian music, like in India, like crazy stuff that they use. They actually a lot of them don't use typical 440 tuning.
Yeah, I was gonna
like,
say they don't even use our tuning most of them.
Yeah, they have quarter tones.
Yeah, 440 hertz. They don't use the typical tuning, so it's off by a few hertz. Usually it's sharp, a little slightly sharp, and their scales don't always use the conventional tuning of each note. So you could have in a scale, some of your notes can be slightly sharp, and some of them can be they can actually be semitones. Like there's a term for this. I'm trying to think. There was a group called Zen Harmonic, and they were trying to make pianos digitally that have like midtones in between a sharp and a regular key. So like halfway in between like C sharp and D. Weird stuff. Really weird stuff.
Quarter tones.
Yeah, sort of like that. It's fascinating though to see the development in music. We have this a very kind of not narrow but specific kind of concept of Western music. There are actually pianos out there. They're ungodly expensive, where you can actually tune each individual string.
Uh-huh.
They actually have these things set up on each string, these little clips, and it allows you to slightly tune each one. Almost like how you have an equalizer, like you have little knobs. Imagine that on a piano.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
You
There are people.
You're getting me inspired to break away and just go do something on the keyboard and get back to you later.
Well, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. Oh God, Reuven's theme song. Is that what I'm saying here?
In fact, I will mute my microphone and do exactly that. I will be back after I have played something I've never played before and never will play again.
Leave your mic open.
Hava Nagila. Really? Really, Doug? Come on now. So mean. Poor Reuven. Let me see. All right.
Damn, I wish I could reach my piano from here. I'd play you guys a song. Oh.
Hey, Reuven, I got something for you.
Ta-da-dun-dun. Good job.
He's a great composer, by the way. I heard down the grapevine that he's going to be doing the music for the Warcraft movie. I have huge friends that are like big into WoW.
Oh, well.
True, though.
That's what's called lambdas. Sigma, so yeah, I think so.
No, yeah, you're right, Reuven. It's not based on WoW. It's based on the Warcraft setting itself. That forms the basis loosely of WoW. Yeah. Well, they said it was going to be, and I'm not like schooled in that storyline or anything. I'd never played any of the games, but they were saying it was based on the First War. Oh, okay, cool. I mean, that's a thing too. There's a lot of really good game music out there. There are a lot of composers. I mean, there have been composers doing game music for a very long time, since like 8-bit music. A lot of the people who have written music for a lot of the RPGs are composers. Yasunori Mitsuda, Nobuo Uematsu. Trying to think who did Mario Brothers and Zelda. Always space out on that name, but yeah, a lot of them.
Oh yeah, the regular Mario theme song is amazing.
That's
Musically,
right.
I mean, the regular Super Mario Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Like Calypso or something like that.
Yep.
It's a Calypso.
Somebody who actually gave me a lot of inspiration for playing, these very modest folk instruments or toy instruments, music, like actually doing it, is this guy. He's been around for a couple years on YouTube, and he does acoustic covers of video game music, or that's what he was doing for the last few years. I think he's moving in a slightly different direction, but
Koji Kondo.
Yeah, that's the guy, Koji Kondo. Beautiful music.
Oh, Koji Kondo.
Oh, yeah. Yes, let's be racist. No, I'm kidding. No, but he did what he does is he'll loop himself. He has like a bunch of different like small instruments. He has like a small accordion. He's very good with the guitar. He's classically trained, and he has like xylophones and like 5 different melodicas, ocarinas, and all these sorts of things. And he sort of orchestrates these video game musics, these songs, each individual part, and loops himself together, films himself doing it. And he's really good at that. There's another guy too. I'm kind of friends with through Google, James Howard Young, and he actually does classical music using melodicas and recorders. And he's done, like, he did this really cool one of 1812 Overture with a friend of his. He was using one of the professional models of the Suzuki melodica, the long 37 key model, and he was playing a duet with a friend of his who's a violinist. Really amazing sound. It's what's interesting about the melodica is it's softer than an accordion because it doesn't have so much of the drone sound. It's not as big, so it's really good if you have a bunch of instrumentalists doing small instruments. Like that's why I wanted to do some like music stuff with a friend of mine, because we all don't have a lot of money, and there's a lot of like really small instruments you can get for around $100 or less or a little over. And I like that idea. Like, you know, folk music covers, you know, modern classics, you know, rock covers even, blues music, jazz. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff available that I've seen people do, and it's given me a lot of inspiration that, you know, if you put the time and energy in, any musical instrument can be musical. You can have fun doing it, and you can get good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and this one really fits the bill for me because I can actually save up to buy ones like this. And I'm hoping. I really like the sound of the bass one. It doesn't have as many keys, but
let me hear the bass one.
Let me get you a. I don't have one yet, but I have some YouTube stuff. There's this Asian kid who is doing a improv solo for release. I just need to find it. Okay, I have it saved on my. Cool. It's smaller, but it's pretty like wide. I like it. It has a very unique sound. Here is his improv thing. Let me know what you think. Still there, Doug?
Yeah, I'm listening to it.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a cool sound. I like it.
It requires a little bit more air because the reeds are bigger. It's actually in the bass clef. I think the lowest note is like D on the bass clef. So it's like the range of a euphonium or a baritone sax.
You ever heard of a? I'm gonna have to look it up. Hold on.
Yeah. You still looking for it, Doug?
Mm-hmm.
There are actually a few small forums where, both on Facebook and off, where people are doing, like they talk to each other about melodicas, because there's not a lot of places that make melodicas, not a lot of companies, but there are a lot of people who enjoy it as their instrument, either as a primary or secondary. So.
Oh, it's called a EWI.
Sounds familiar. How's it spelled?
EWI, electronic wind instrument.
Oh, yeah. You're talking. It's a MIDI controller.
Yeah, they sound awesome. Some of them,
Yeah.
like some, because you can program them to do whatever you want, basically. The Akai one is the one that I've seen, the AKAI.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going towards the being able to play it, just pick it up and play it, and it has its own sound.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm just like it was fun for sure, but it just doesn't vibe with me all that much. I'm glad that I experienced it. I know how to do it, and there's programs now I can record myself playing. I know how to do that now, and that's a thing too, using technology. I just the kinds of music that you make electronically, I'm not built for it, I guess. And I like the idea of having my friends and some of my acquaintances who play musical instruments and just be able to kind of jam out with them, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea. So what do you think of the bass?
Yeah, I like the sound of it a lot.
Bass melody.
It's got
Yeah.
a nice rich sound to it.
That's what I like about it. It's got a different sound than a lot of melodicas, and if I played that, that would set me apart a little because it's different. Most of them
definitely. You never see those really.
No.
I mean, just if you go out to a random place that has live music, you're probably not going to see one of those.
You might see a conventional melodica or maybe a vintage model, like the metal ones. Hohner used to make that were real small, and they had like little buttons. And you can still get some of those on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way that one sounds, and it's made by a company that makes a lot of really good ones. Their pro models are much higher quality, better reads, better tuning. They don't require any kind of, because sometimes cheaper ones, they kind of are out of tune when you get them sometimes. So you have to take it apart and bend the reed plates.
Oh yeah, that would be a pain.
I mean, reed instruments are supposed to be slightly out of tune. I've noticed that. Like, what makes them interesting is when you're playing the same, there's eccentricities in, like, if you're playing all 3 Cs or all 4 Cs, they're going to have slight variances, so it gives a sort of, like, vibrato effect. You see that with accordions a lot.
Yeah, and you get that harmonic tone.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of different sounds all blending into the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. So, I mean, that's kind of the direction I'm going, and probably get some other friends some stuff. I have a friend of mine, Patrick. He was in band with me when we were in school. He was like my last year because he's a bit younger, and he was thinking of picking up woodwinds again because he had a real bad experience in school. A lot of the people in his graduating class, they were kind of dicks. So, and he played clarinet. And I was telling him, because he's very good with woodwinds when he puts in the time and energy, he could either get a recorder, which is a fully chromatic instrument, or he could get a bunch of penny whistles in different keys, which would be a little complicated and expensive for him. Or he could get this instrument that I found out about a while ago, and there's variations of it that are similar, called the Xaphon, Xaphon, and it's a mini saxophone. It's this
I've seen those. They look like flutes, right?
It's a regular tube chamber with holes in it instead of valves or like buttons, valve buttons, and it uses the head of it and the reed of
a saxophone.
And they're like, you could probably score one for $60. Sometimes they're as much as 80, and they have advanced models like $100. And they have a much smaller sound. It's still fairly loud, but not super loud.
Have you seen the guy that made a what was it? Like out of a carrot or something? He made like
he was on TED. He was on TED Talks.
That's right. Yeah.
He made the instrument there. And
right.
And it was in tune. Yeah.
Sounded good too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you don't necessarily need to go all out to play music and have fun with it.
No.
There's a big kind of indie kind of thing now. Somebody will go out and get like a ukulele, and somebody else will have like a small flute or whatever, and they'll play together. And now with YouTube and a million other things, you can record yourself doing it.
Yeah, put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I've been going with a lot of the stuff. I have a lot of PDFs, fake books, which are basically
helpful.
Yeah, they have the melody line and all the chords. Like it has the notation for all the chords, so it tells you what the song is and the lyrics and everything. So you can take that, write it down, and you could make sheet music for a bunch of other people if you needed to, or just learn it and everyone else can play it.
Yeah, I ended up using those a bunch in my piano lessons too. At first, it was just straight sheet music with everything written out, but then we started using cheat sheets.
Well, it was a thing too with my mom when she was alive. She started playing ragtime music.
Oh, awesome! I love that stuff.
And one of the things that reason why she got into ragtime and more like contemporary classics and stuff is she was tired of like the expectation that to play music you have to be excellent, just phenomenal at what you do. And a lot of like classical piano is like that. Like
it's very stuffy, yeah.
You have to pour thousands of hours into being able to play. And don't get me wrong, studying classical is good, but there's a certain point. If you don't have the talent, the natural talent to be able to play that, you're never going to get past a certain point. So more contemporary stuff, folk music, some forms of jazz, blues, it's more about having fun and playing.
Yeah.
So, and that's a part of the reason why I'm kind of going this little direction. I have two melodicas. One of them is broken now because it was a piece of shit. It was like $20. And this one, it's a $70, but it's I've had some issues. There are melodicas.
I mean, not the ridiculous like Stradivarius of the melodicas, but I mean just like a really good quality professional grade. Like, what do they run?
$100.
Oh, that's it. Wow.
$100 or more.
That's really affordable for a musical instrument.
Yeah, they're made out of a hard plastic, but the inner parts, like I said, it's the reed. If the reed is made in higher quality. The 32 key ones tend to be made in less high quality than the 37 key. There's this weird color. It's just a duplicate of the student model of the Hohner. Well, it's not meant to be crazy. My options is either to go with the Pro model that's 37 keys and from the alto goes up a little higher into the soprano. Getting the soprano model, which is 32 but much higher quality, or going with the bass that I found on sale.
I'd go with the bass. It's on sale.
It's on sale. It doesn't have as many keys, but I was thinking to myself, if I was playing with it would be really good accompaniment. And reed sounds really good in the bass. A lot of dulcimers and guitars are kind of in a higher.
Definitely.
They're a little higher. They're in the middle range. And if I got a third person or fourth person playing other instruments, they would likely be in the high range. Like a recorder goes up a bit higher, unless you get the bass recorder. But that bass recorders and tenor recorders and baritone, it's designed if you're playing with a huge ensemble and you have multiple recorders playing at once. But the standard alto or soprano recorder, they're not too expensive. You can get a very nice recorder for $50.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You can get a nice wood one too, which has a beautiful sound. There's a store down the way from me. It's called the Folk Music Center. It's in Claremont, California. They have a bunch of instruments there. So I might be able to score my buddy an instrument for cheap as a gift.
What were you thinking of getting him?
I was thinking of getting him either an ocarina or a recorder.
Oh, an ocarina would be cool.
I gave him this wood one that I had, but it's really weird tuning. It's difficult to play. But the standard like sweet potato style, it's a little easier.
Like the Zelda style.
And he's really big into Zelda. He's like he's a Zelda fanatic. So
yeah, that'd be perfect for him. Man.
Yeah, I know some good ones that I could get that he could play that would be inexpensive. And then if he wanted to go more, they have advanced recorders on stlocarina.com that are really good. and not horribly expensive, but they have custom models with weird features and really, really good ranges. And ocarina is the thing that's great about them. They're one of the few woodwind instruments that is totally chromatic. So as a woodwind player, that's excellent.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you'd have to get one per key like a harmonica.
No, the thing is with ocarinas is it's a little difficult to get all the accidentals, but it's very possible. The ranges are different. So they're built into a key, and that sets the range. So it's a little easier to play the set key, but
you
there's
can
a lot
play in
more.
other keys, yeah.
You could feasibly play in almost all the keys.
Wow.
So, with diatonic harmonicas, you have to eventually get all of them. The thing is with most music, there's about 6 or 7 keys that are standard: C, D, E, G, A, sometimes F, B flat. Those are like the standard, like folk, rock, blues keys that you would need. But cross harp is what you play blues. So if you're in a C, you're basically playing G blues in second position.
Well, I'm going to get some whiskey. I'll be right back.
All right, see you in a bit. Still there, Reuven? Cool. Oh, you're going to bed? Okay. Well, do you want to cut it? I can stay open for a while, entertain whoever comes in. Okay, sounds good.